known as the topic of midah keneged midah, measure for measure. In English they say what goes around comes around. Hamavdil, that is the idea of midah keneged midah. And it says as follows, that if Eret Israel, which is a commentator, or a commentary rather on the Mishnah, says that Hillel was very concerned why this human head or human skull did not merit it to have Jewish burial. We know that how unpleasant the topic of burial is, but we know very well that there is something called in Jewish law, kavod haniftar, respecting the dead. That's why we don't delay funerals. We do them as much as we can, and we appoint devoted people to keep an eye on the body from a spiritual perspective, known as the shomer, etc. And yet Hillel sees that there is this human head floating on the water. So I think that the Mishnah is trying to teach us, according to the commentaries that we have, that a person needs to understand, and this is, I would like to say, also a concept related to the powerful topic of emunah, that nothing happens to the person just by pure coincidence. If something happened to the person, there must be a certain level of heavenly involvement in order for that to happen. This is one explanation of the Mishnah. Let's clarify that the statement of Hillel, it doesn't mean that every time that, God forbid, there is a corpse floating on the water, or a head floating on the water, it means that God is punishing them in a certain way. No. Why? Because there are some situations, anti-Semitism, Holocaust, Inquisition, pogroms, and others, that regretfully the life of the Jews had no value. It's no different what's going on today with the current situations nationwide, with the riots, many movements quietly through social media and others. It's creating a wave, indirectly but directly affecting Bnei Israel. So we need to pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that things don't get out of hands. As I said in today's earlier class, something that we learned a few weeks back from the Pirke Abot, the importance of praying for the welfare of the government. So with that being said, let's go to some of the additional mefarshim on this particular Mishnah, that although may not be a happy Mishnah like usually Pirke Avot is, but yet we need to derive the powerful lessons that the Mishnah brings upon us. So it says as follows. This fellow, I'm multitasking today, and I apologize for that. This fellow excellent. Apparently, who met his final destination in the water. The Mefarshim say that this individual had an interesting way of getting rid of people. That's what the commentary of the Mishnah says. That he used to kidnap people, or used to commit crimes against people, and used to bring the dead body or the human remains in the water to erase any trace of being found. And you can use your imagination. So Hillel says, this is how Hashem dealt with you because you also hurt people during your lifetime. There is an interesting a pasuk from Iyov that says, "Ki po'al adam yeshalem lo, uchorach ish imsaenu." It says God retributes to the actions of every person. So when we say midah keneged midah, measure for measure, it's not only utilized as a negative connotation because of this Mishnah. Midah keneged midah, it works both ways. In a negative way, God forbid, or in a positive way, the way the Gemara writes, Kol ha-merachem ala beriot, merachamim alav min ha-shamayim. A person that is merciful and is compassionate towards others, Borei Olam will also reciprocate that to him. But also, I think we need to understand an interesting Gemara that says, Megalgelim zechut al yedei zakai, bechoba al yedei hayav. We bring goodness and salvation through good people, and we bring hardship and headaches through people which are not good. The Gemara goes even a step and another step, that even the essence of the day can have an influence on the outcome of the day. And what example can we bring on the table today? Tisha B'Av. We already know the days of Tisha B'Av, the weeks prior to Tisha B'Av, the 9 days of Av, the week of Echa, Echa itself, how careful a person must be, how many tragedies affected Am Israel and the world around the days of Tisha B'Av. So I don't like to go any further on this particular Mishnah, because I think that the message basically of the Mishnah has been already delivered. But now the next Mishnah, it's a bit more down to earth, more practical, with a lot of powerful messages for everyday life. So the Mishnah continues in the name of Hillel. Now, to give an introduction from the Meiri, the next Mishnah is going to teach us or reinforce what we already know, that the physical life in this physical world is a tool for us to be able to combine the physical with the spiritual, or the material with the spiritual life. But the moment that we make our physical life the only priority, or the main priority in life, meaning to say that our spiritual life goes to the back burner, that's when spiritually we can get in trouble. Why? Because if most of our investment is about me, myself, and I, my physical life, my financial life, my eating life, and I don't have a space in my life for certain level of godliness, so what did I achieve in my life? Or what education I'm giving over to my children, or what example I'm giving over to the grandchildren, etc. So the Mishnah writes, Hu haya omer, Mishnah number 8, Hillel used to say, Marbe basar, marbe rima. It says that the more flesh is in one's body, the more worms, so to speak. I don't want to say what it says in the book, but basically after 120, the body decays. Marbe nechasim, the more possessions a person has, the more assets a person owns. Marve deaga, we increase more worries, more concern, bills, taxes, assessment, empty apartment, busy apartment, maintenance plan, insurance claims, whatever it may be. Marve nashim, the more wives the person has, which in the olden days seemed that it was the custom. Marbe cheshafim, the more witchcraft we include. Why? The short answer is that in the olden days, although for many generations a husband was allowed to have more than one wife, but that extra amount of wives caused a tremendous amount of competition between the wives of who the husband will pay attention to. And they used to utilize different type of black magic to create an attraction from the husband to themselves, and the husband should not pay attention to any other of his wives. I know that for today, with one, we have, Baruch Hashem, plenty, thank God. But in the olden days, it seems to be that it was the common practice. Marbe shefahot, the more maid servants. Marbe zima, more lewdness for inappropriate relations, etc. Marbe abadim, the more men servants we have. Marbe gazel, the more thievery. Marbe Torah, bat, all those were negative. Marbe Torah, on the other hand, the more Torah a person has, marbe haim, more life. We all agree on that. The more yeshiva, mechila, marbe yeshiva, the more students of Torah we have, marbe chokhmah, more wisdom comes down into the world. Marbe etzah, the more counsel we seek, marbe temunah, more understanding we are able to receive. Marbe tzedakah, the more charity we give out, marbe shalom, we bring more peace into the world. Kanashem tov, a person who gain a good reputation, kana le'atzmo, this is for our own benefit. In other words, we all love to have a Shem Tov. We all love to have a good name. It takes a lifetime to develop a good name. We are not born with a good name. We are born with good parents, Be'ezat Hashem, and excellent grandparents. But it's our responsibility and our duty not only to continue in the footsteps, but act in a way that they will be proud of us and we're going to be proud of ourselves. Kanalo divrei Torah, a person who gained for himself Torah knowledge. Kanalo hayeh ha'olam haba, the person was able to acquire a peace in a world, a peace in the world to come. Meaning to say, this is an investment of Torah learning and Torah knowledge that no one can take it away from us. You know, in Spanish, there is a statement that says, El saber no ocupa lugar, which in English it will be like, a wisdom or knowledge does not occupy space. Meaning to say, I have plenty of room in my brain to being able to acquire Torah in as my ownership, my own Torah, so to speak. That includes the knowledge of the person. That's something that no one can take it away from us. And the dividends and the benefits, Be'ezat Hashem, come after the person leaves the physical world. So with that being said, let's try to understand a bit better the beginning statements of the Mishnah. So the Binali Itim explains the concept of the more flesh in one's body, the more worms. And although some commentaries explains that this refers to the day that a person leaves the world, but actually the Binai team explains that this Mishnah is telling us that the healthier the person eats, which today, Baruch Hashem, I think that eating healthier, it's part of who we are. You heard me talking about keto diet, cheesecake, and cauliflower pizza, and carbless challah, and all these things that became part of our day-to-day talk and day-to-day conversation. And it says that the healthier the person eats, the healthier the person will live, and at the long run will bring health benefits to the life of the person. Marbe nechasim, the next one, the one who increases in possessions. Marbe deaga, he's constantly worried. Why? He's afraid of losing them, he's afraid of being stolen from him, or he's afraid of the situations that may come their way. So the person seems to be spending most of his life or her life worrying, and then at the end of the day, that constant worrying does not have a happy ending in the life of the person. Marbe nashim, marbe cheshafim, as I mentioned before, this comes from Masechet Sanhedrin, the power of witchcraft that ladies used to create in order to keep the husbands close to them. And you may say, okay, Rabbi, what is the problem? It says as follows, that if you look a minute in the way that this Mishnah it's written, it says first, the person enjoys a good life. Okay, enjoys good life, drinking, eating, etc. Then he wants to increase his assets, which is fine. Then he wants to show that he's able to afford to maintain several homes at the same time. In today's society, this may be called divorce or separation, but in the olden days seems to be marriage. And then the fact that you have X amount of wives, you need to have X amount of khadames. So each one will take care of the house needs. And then you have more, because then you have more mouths to feed. You have 4 wives, 15 kids, 4 maids, and 4 abadim. So already 25 people just what you need to support on a monthly basis. And therefore the Mishnah says basically that the abadim, the slaves, especially in the olden days, that a slave was like an ownership type of creation, so to speak, that people purchase the slaves on the market. And some of them, or the norm, I shouldn't say some of them, but it seems that slaves from a certain country or certain nation, they were known for their thievery and they were known for their promiscuity. And therefore the Mishnah is telling us that even though you're going to have a slave, but make sure to get someone that is respectful, someone that is down to earth, and not someone that really can become a source of impurity or unholiness in the life of the person. So the way we saw it, basically from this Mishnah, these are things that a person really should try to stay away. And let's clarify, here the Mishnah is not telling us, don't go to work, don't make parnasah, etc. But you also need to take care of your body, you need to take care of your soul, you need to take care of the neshama, we need to take care of the family. So basically, as long as the Maimonides writes, as long as that we are able to have a balance in our life, combining the physical with the spiritual, we are in the right track, which I believe this was one of the messages that we discussed last week prior to the celebration of Shavuot. But now let's concentrate in the happy part of this second Mishnah. The Mishnah writes, Marbe Torah, a person that increases in Torah learning, Marbe Haim, increases life. As Shlomo HaMelech says, Kibir mu yamecha ve'yosifu lecha shenot hayil. Kibi, in me, that says in my Torah, irbu yamecha, your days will increase, ve'yosifu lecha, and will be added to you, shenot hayim, years of longevity. And although we know that many times when the Pesukim of the Torah talks about long life and longevity, it means in the world to come. But in a way, if we can quote quickly the Gemara from Masechet Sotah, that the Gemara writes, Torah makna umatzla, that the Torah saves and the Torah shields the life of the person. So literally in English it means that through the zechut of Torah learning, we are able to live a happier life, a more fulfilling life, and a more godly type of life. Not only that, Marbe Yeshiva, the more a person sits down with the Hachamim to learn Torah, Marbe Chokhmah, you will increase in wisdom of things that happen in the world. And it is true. You don't have to follow the news to know what happened in the world. Just come to the class and you'll listen from me if there is something relevant or important that we'll talk about it like we did today in the morning. Other explanation says, Marve Yeshiva, this refers to having more Torah students. Why? Because Torah students usually tend to ask questions. And not every question is written. And many, many times the question brings the rabbi to do research on the question, which this is something that I've spoke about it several times in the past. Not only not being embarrassed of asking, but from the rabbi's perspective, not being embarrassed to say, you know what, great question, I want to verify the answer, or I need to ask, or I need to search for the answer that is also good for the sake of Torah. Marve Etzah, a person who does not rely on their own counsel, meaning to say, a person who asks an advice. And the advice that we're talking about at this moment, I don't believe that the Mishnah is referring specifically to a Torah advice necessarily, but it means a person needs an advice, what to do in a certain situation in life. And as a rabbi, I can tell you, I get all kinds of questions, and many of them are not a halacha question, Rabbi, can I do this? Rabbi, can I do that? No, sometimes the questions are more relevant to the outside part of the world. Somebody asked me for a loan, I'd like to move into the community, I like to make business with somebody, can you tell me about the person, etc. And the Mishnah says, go ahead, ask for an advice, because what is the benefit of asking for an advice? It says here very simple, Marve Temuna, you will increase in deeper understanding. Why? Because sometimes the person themselves doesn't have the complete peripheral vision that is required to give a good advice. In other words, maybe the person, in Hebrew we say, the Gemara writes, En havush matir atzmo mibet ha'asurin. Someone that is in jail, in a hole, cannot free themselves. What is this talking about? Perhaps in a way we can blend it with our Mishnah. If a person has a challenge or a situation, by talking to an outsider, especially someone that is not affected by that situation, can give you a clear and unbiased and friendly advice to help that person make the decision. And how many times people told me, Rabbi, I never saw it this way. Because the person sometimes, a person looks at themselves, and this is what they look at, but they forget to look at the big picture. And I'm not saying that I'm such a hacham, that every time you're going to come, automatically I'm going to give you the answer. But at least, when a person talks and backs and forth, back and forth, Be'ezat Hashem, good things and positive things will come. And many times, we need to know how to say, good question, great question, but I do not have the answer. We need to call bigger hachamim. We need to call a doctor. We need to call the yanim. We need to call the chief rabbin, based on the situation, based on the question. Marve tzedakah, the more charity the person is Marve Shalom. Yeshaya says, we bring peace. Why? Because the Pasuk writes, Vehaya Ma'aseh Hasedaka Shalom. The ultimate goal and the ultimate outcome and purpose of charity will be the concept of Shalom. And it says, another Mishnah, another part of the Mishnah, Kana Shem Tov. If a person acquires a good name, the question is, how do you acquire a good name? Sure, many people are going to tell me he was honest in business. Beautiful. That is a great answer. But that's not the full answer. Because you want to know how do you become honest in business? Through Torah learning. Because what honesty means from a Torah standard is much deeper than what the world calls honesty. So you acquire Torah learning, you give charity, you treat people properly, you are Rodef Shalom, you pursue the peace, you escape away from Mahloket. All these small statements and words make up the beautiful picture known as Shem Tov, a good name. This is how Shlomo HaMelech says in Kohelet, Tov Shem, Mishem and Tov. It takes a lifetime to acquire a good name on the person. Kanale Atzmo, it says, the Tosafot Yom Tov says that a person who came to the world, lived through life, and did not leave a Shem Tov, did not leave a legacy of his persona in the planet Earth, Kelo Haya. Yani, you came down to the world, you live 80 years, 90 years, 100 years, how many years God gives us, B'ezrat Hashem. You got married, you have children, you bought homes, etc. But what is your legacy? What is the Shem Tov that a person can acquire through life? So here it says, Al Yedei Torah, through the concept of Torah learning, Ve'ah Chokhmah, and the wisdom and generosity. And that's why the Mishnah concludes, Kana lo divrei Torah, if the Torah became an integral part of our life, meaning to say that the person now is able to truly develop a positive relationship between him or between me and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but having a common language of the Torah, the Mishnah says, Harehem Hayim Amitiim. This is the true life that a person can acquire through life. And this doesn't mean, God forbid, that we not valuing the importance of giving charity, and we're not valuing the importance of helping people, etc. But we need to be honest with us. That doesn't make us Talmidei Chachamim. That doesn't make us knowledgeable people of Torah. And guess what? Not everybody needs to become a rabbi, but everybody must become a good Yehudi, closer to God, closer to our mitzvot, part of our Torah. That a person has a good relationship with God through all the tools that I mentioned. And none of them are negotiable based on what we are learning of the Mishnah. In other words, a person cannot say, oh, I love to give charity, I love to help people. Hazal Baruch. But there are another 612 commandments. 619 if you add the rabbinical ones as well. So giving charity is beautiful. I never stop, because only brings beracha to the person. But do something for yourself. And this for yourself is invest in my good name. How do I do that? Rule number one, learning Torah. Because then the person will understand what is the Torah, what is the purpose of life, what is our mission in the world. And then once a person learns Torah, guaranteed that there will be a transformation in the life of the person. But this transformation, many times people say, no, I'm afraid of the change. Life is about changing. The entire aspect of life is about the willingness to change. And this willingness of changing is to make us live a more meaningful life, a more godly type of life, a more positive life, a happy life, I meant to say. So don't be afraid of stepping up to the next level, especially now. We are in the best time of the year to reactivate our commitment to God. We just finished Shavuot. We just said Na'aseh v'nishma. We ate the sambusak and we did whatever we need to do. Now we need to deliver in that promise. And that's why the Mishnah at the end concludes the idea of concept of Torah learning. And even though, let's clarify, that a person may say, Rabbi, I support yeshiva, I support kolelim, that is beautiful. And you should never stop doing that. But guess what? As we said before, we need to invest in ourselves. Imagine yourself if I will say, you know what? Because you had breakfast today, I'm not going to have breakfast. Because your breakfast satisfied me. Does it make sense what I'm saying? Obviously not. You had your breakfast, I need to have my breakfast. Although sometimes I skip breakfast, it's not that good neither. But I understand that, as the Mishnah wrote in chapter 1, Im en ani li mi li. If I don't do things for me, who will do? And I repeat, even though you support Torah students and Torah kolelim, that's beautiful, and don't stop, because you are responsible for the constant flow of spiritual oxygen for Am Israel. But the question is, what are we doing for ourselves today? And that is the message of today, Pirke Abot. Understand that our goal is to live a peaceful life, a meaningful life, but a life that has godliness. Because if God forbid, our life does not have godliness, what do you think is going to be with our lives? What kind of life are we going to have? I'm going to say something that maybe is not that popular, but look at the riots. New York, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Los Angeles, Chicago, and the other places. Do you see a sense of godliness there? Completely the opposite. So, but our Mishnah tells us, as Yehudim, godliness is the name of the game. And it's not a game, because it's real life. But as long as that we are holding God's hands step after step, we are in the right track. As the Pasuk says, Bechol derachecha da'ehu, Behu yeyasher orchotecha. In every footstep of life, there is a room for godliness. If we look for God, we will be able to find them. We just need to open up our eyes and type in the right password. You don't know the password? Ask your rabbi. Ask your local rabbi. He'll give you the password that you need to connect with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Sometimes you can do it remotely. Sometimes you need to download and upgrade. Whatever jargon we use for the computer world, take that and use it now for the essence of our neshama. My dear Kahal Kadosh, we are literally not even 48 hours after Shavuot. You know what this means? That we are in the perfect timing of the Jewish calendar to show Borei Olam that our vows and our wedding anniversary that was obviously the celebration of Shavuot, it is not going to be a year like the year that was before. It's going to be a year that we are warming up in the relationship, and we're trying to have a happier, holier, and a more loving and close relationship that we may have had in the past. I'd like to wish everybody to have a Shavuot Tov, a wonderful day. Once again, we express our gratitude to Mr. Clement Rahamim Beda Hamuya Cohen for graciously once again sponsoring the class Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved wife, Doret Bat Sofi Alea Hashalom. Have a great day, everybody. Shavuot Tov u'mevorach. Tizku l'shanim rabot. Wherever you are, wherever you may be, please stay safe, be careful, especially if there are things going around your city. And let us hope and pray that things will get better, and pray for the welfare of everyone. Have a great day. Shavuot Tov u'mevorach.